anyway, so since jnana, karma and bhakti are emphasized more in Bhagavad Gita, whoever is more attached to the sense gratification, jnana yoga is recommended for them. So now in that step, first we are doing karma and then we progress to karma yoga, and then we try to become devotees, and then still we not become a true devotee, pure devotee or whatever, right? And then we need jnana. So we understand that still I am attached to material stuff. So that's when the last 6 chapters will actually help us, start to help us. Because there is now the 3 modes of nature is explained properly in the last 6 chapters, and all the other things that happen in the material world in terms of the 3 modes of nature and things like that, demonic and divine qualities, everything is explained. Now, so I want to again remind, what is the main theme in Bhagavad Gita? The main theme, the center focus in Bhagavad Gita.
The Bhakti.
Okay.
Love for God.
Action, duty.
Duty, action, karma. Yes. Karma, that's the main theme, and he's explaining how to do it in Bhakti. Right? Of course, Bhakti is primary for devotees, but for if you ask like the best, like we ask who's the best friend, which fits in the best word that can fit in as the main theme is karma, right? So now, first 6 chapters. First chapter describes the setting the scene. Second chapter, what he is going to speak about. He is summarizing. He is just telling, now introducing the contents. Second chapter. Third chapter, Krishna spoke about karma. And the 2 reasons why Krishna put the Bhakti Yoga in the middle, because generally people, materialistic people, they just want to quickly make use of Bhagavad Gita. They don't want to really, so they just look in the beginning and they look in the end. What's the summary? What is Krishna saying at the end? But they miss the main thing in between, unless they are sincere, right? That's one reason. Second reason is it is natural flow, how we want to evolve.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right. So now, this is setting the scene. So, second chapter, Krishna is telling what he is going to talk about. In third chapter, Krishna is explaining what is karma yoga. I mean, this is the main theme of both. He is encouraging Arjuna to do his duty. Now, fourth chapter, he is giving knowledge. So he's already described karma and is giving knowledge, so that in 5th chapter again he is touching base on. He's talking about karma, so that you do the same what he is explaining in 3rd chapter with more knowledge. Now it becomes action in Krishna consciousness.
That's okay.
So that's why the first 6 sections are the chapters. They are described to be the karma yoga section. Okay, so in the 4th chapter, Krishna is talking about transcendental knowledge. Now, there is a. So now let's read here. If you see the points here, chapter 4 presents the Lord telling Arjuna that all kind of sacrificial work culminates in knowledge. Also, Krishna glorifies jnana and speaks of action and inaction, and inaction and inaction. Okay. And in text 4.41, also Krishna glorifies jnana and renunciation. Right? And again, next verse, Krishna says Arjuna to fight. So this confuses Arjuna a little bit. Okay. So Arjuna's understanding up to this point is that he thinks renunciation is knowledge involves cessation of all kinds of work performed as sense activities. But if one performs work in devotion service, as Krishna suggests, then how is work stopped? Work and renunciation appears to be incompatible to Arjuna at this point of time. Okay. So we can understand that Arjuna still have a doubt work in full knowledge is non-reactive and is therefore same as inaction. So that's why chapter 5 opens with a question from Arjuna, which is better, work in devotion or renunciation of work? Now, I forgot to bring Bhagavad Gita. So anybody can Bhagavad Gita? Oh, okay.
I have in card too, but it doesn't have the
Okay.
Sanskrit.
Okay. I think that's fine. We can read the translation from here.
We can put it on our phones too, if needed.
Right. Yeah, but I think the translation is fine.
Okay.
I asked Lakshmi to recite the one verse from this chapter at the end. So now, if I'll read what is explained here, 4.4142, right? What Krishna's intention is. 4th chapter, 41st verse, Krishna is saying, one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his action, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in self. Thus is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. And then 42 is saying, therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart about ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. Hare Krishna. Okay. Krishna, this is a drama being played by Arjuna and Krishna. Right? There's a reason why Krishna is confusing Arjuna. So this Bhagavad Gita is spoken for us. If Arjuna understood in the first chapter itself, there's no need to go in depth. So let's see what Arjuna is asking. First question Arjuna is asking in the first chapter, 5th chapter is, O Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce the work. And then again you recommend work in devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which one of the two is more beneficial? Sounds like a skit, right? It's a transcendental skit by... and then the personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. Now these words like action in inaction and inaction in action, let's try to understand. Can somebody try to... Does anyone want to mention what you understand about action in inaction?
I can tell you something. When we know the law of karma, we know that any action produces a reaction that is immediate. And could be negative or positive, it's always a reaction. It's so, Arjuna says, so it's better maybe stop any action to avoid the reaction. So, but Krishna said him that we can do and even produce karma even if we don't have active actions. You can spend all day, it seems you don't do anything at work, instead you are mentally chanting, so you are doing some positive reaction, or just spending time watching TV or watching outside the trees, and you are doing everything, you are not producing a good karma. This is my point of view.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. But
I don't have the book, so I cannot read the complete.
action in inaction or inaction in action. So what you described is more of action in inaction, right? Like even if the sannyasis, the transcendentalists, they think I'm not working, Huh? But still there is an action. So they, in this world there is, no one can sit idle. Nahika kshanamapi jatu tishtati akarma krit. Krishna is explaining that if he is a sannyasi, if he is transcendentalist, even if he is doing Sankhya Yoga, analytical study, but can he stop action? He needs to eat, right? He needs to breathe. I'm saying. He needs to move. So everything is action here. This is natural. So it's very difficult to stop the action.
But it's a positive always when even breathing, nobody thinks that is offered to Krishna. If we consider breathing is a most natural element, until we die. So people maybe pre-Krishna don't think that they have offered even the breathing to Krishna. We offer the food, but very really think that even breathing is very important. It could be offered first before the food, because we breathe every second. He said we don't eat every second. We eat after 2-3 hours of this.
So what is the definition of action?
Action is any, not merely physical action, but even mental action.
So the point is,
Or physiological.
there can be an action in inaction.
Right.
So there is no one can claim that I am doing this inaction. So that's the whole point, right? So if you don't know how to act in such a way, there is no reaction. There is no solution in inaction. In the sense, you can't renounce action. It's not possible.
So like even the yogis who say, I'll
Yeah.
just go sit in the mountain and
Right.
I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
They're doing something by
Some
doing,
action. Yeah.
by not
Exactly. Exactly.
This is not
So that's the whole point.
So
So
you,
that's
can,
why.
you cannot go.
Right.
It's not for the American mentality.
Right. Right. So that's.
But
so,
do you think is that ultimate?
Now-
Do you think is that ultimate?
No, that's not
I
that.
don't think it's that ultimate.
No.
I think there's a practical. There's still something practical about this verse, action and inaction. Even by sitting down and doing the yoga.
In meditation.
But I don't think. Yeah, but you're breathing and you're actually sitting down, and
Right.
so you're saying, okay, that's action.
Yes.
But
inaction.
does he ultimately mean that there is action in that
Yes.
inaction, or
Yes.
is there something before that?
No,
is
there
making
is
this-
action. So the point is, Krishna really clearly says that what he's explaining is the renunciation of work is this is the definition of action and inaction. So even if you say you renounce the work, there is an action. That's what it means.
Which is what?
Which is the transcendentalist they think, which is not good actually. That's why Krishna is
No,
recommending.
but what is it? You said there is inaction in that renunciation, right?
So the second part, inaction is actually Bhakti Yoga. We're all acting, but it's actually inaction. It's not action. So we are all eating, we're breathing. So if you are perfect in knowledge, transcendental knowledge, if you know the conclusion, then there is no reaction.
The renunciation in work, then it doesn't exist,
Exactly.
correct?
Right.
Ultimately.
Right.
Is
But
that
for
correct, Sushil?
Sankhya it's allowed.
Hmm.
But they can also achieve the same goal, but it's very difficult.
I
It's
think,
not-
isn't the point that even if you renounce work, you're still getting reaction, and the point is we don't want reaction to anything. Isn't that what the point is? But what
Correct.
he's saying is, when
That's
you
the
have,
conclusion. But the conclusion. But what he's asking is it recommended? Like
Oh, okay,
for
exactly.
for karma yogis, inaction is not recommended. For dhyana yogis also they have to act. For jnanis, if they are really serious in Sankhya Yoga, it was recommended. It's not that they can also achieve the same goal, but it's very difficult, especially if they have not understood the conclusion that this whole knowledge is to please the Supreme Lord, and it's very difficult.
Because the idea is, if Arjuna is there
That,
at the crux, and he doesn't want to fight, and Krishna
Right.
says you should fight.
correct,
That's what it's all surrounding, right?
right.
So then he's talking about if you don't fight,
Mhm.
then you're going to incur sin, and that's inaction.
Correct.
It's getting there inside,
Correct.
right? So
Correct.
this is the whole. This is
Now,
the
if you
whole
don't
surrounding.
fight, see, the thing is, Arjuna.
Because inaction means you don't fight.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
even if you so
Action means to fight.
so that's
In
when
that context.
so that's when Krishna is saying there is an action in your inaction.
Inaction. Right.
So in other words, Krishna is actually cornering Arjuna in many ways. First Arjuna said, I'll go to forest. You know, Krishna says, what will you eat? In order to eat, you need to work. That's when this famous word, Anna Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanya Tanna Sambhava. Yajya Bhavati Parjanya Yajya Karma Sambhava. They say, you know, the food grains are coming from the rains. The rains are coming from the sacrifice. And what is sacrifice? Doing your action. Doing your duty is actually the sacrifice. And you will please the devatas. And then Arjuna says, and Krishna says, if you are not purified, and if you stop action, Hare Krishna. If you are not purified, and if you stop action, then what will we do? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. This is very important. I would like to see if somebody would like to volunteer. Let's say we are not purified. We are not like very spiritual. We don't have so much devotion and knowledge. And we try to stop the action. What happens? What will we end up doing?
You mean that
Many guess, like for example, if we quit our jobs right now,
become a fruitive action?
what would we most probably start?
Fall into lethargy and
Oh, we will.
Yes. Yeah. There will be laziness, there will be, mostly our senses will direct us to do some sinful activity. That's what we will end up doing. That's why it's dangerous, that's why Krishna never encourages to stop action. So first he said, you can't be quiet even for a minute, so you need to work even to maintain your body. There's nobody sitting, it's not possible, everyone is doing something at every moment. Then even if you stop action, if you're not purified, if you stop action, you'll end up doing all the sinful activities. It will cause bondage if you stop the action in an unpurified state. And then Krishna says, and there's one point where Arjuna says, now I understand. Now can I give up? Right? Now I am purified. Right? So what does Krishna say now to let Arjuna fight? Any guesses? First he said you can't stop action.
He says it's your duty as a warrior that you have to...
That's one thing. And he also says, anybody?
If he doesn't fight, he will become any worse.
Right, all that explanations are there. But even if he's become perfect sadhu, the reason Krishna says, the essence is that you still work to set an example for others to work. So like this, the work is always encouraged. And in this verse, Arjuna is asking clearly, you kindly tell me definitely which one of these two is more beneficial, either to renounce or work. Krishna is, he's telling both leads to same goal, both are okay, but of two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work.
Because there's danger for both. That if you renounce work, then you're going to get to a terrible state.
Correct.
And then if you don't, then you become attached to it.
Correct.
There's always this dichotomy that's running throughout the Bhagavad Gita.
No,
Inaction.
if you don't, in the sense, if you so that's what we will understand now, how we need to work. So thank you for leading us to the right direction right now. So this is a good, background and everything in between we understood. So this is what chapter 5 talks about, how to work in such a way that we won't be attached to it. That's the point. That's why this chapter is called Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So if you work in Krishna consciousness, if you work in devotion, if you work in, with a purpose to please God, if you work as an employee for God, there is no reaction. That's the word.
So I got the action, that there's always action in the inaction.
Okay.
What about the inaction in action?
Right.
So that's what we're talking about now.
Okay.
So that's your question. You have
Now I'm wondering about that.
Exactly. So this is now you ask this question. Now I'm acting. Now I'm getting attached. So Krishna is saying there is an inaction in action.
You've got to explain that.
So the inaction in action is very easy to understand.
Okay.
He tells here. He tells in 3rd chapter. He gives more knowledge in 4th chapter. He makes it perfect in 5th chapter. Now he's going to tell in the entire chapter 7 to chapter 12, he's telling the benefits of doing it. So we are not going to miss that part. Everywhere he's emphasizing that there is inaction in action. So it's very simple to understand. What is natural for us? To act is natural, right? So I can't even sit here without moving. Even a yogi, I mean, how long can we sit? We need to act. So what's natural for us is easy for us. What's unnatural for us is difficult for us. Isn't it true? So because it's natural to act, so it's natural to eat. It's very simple. So because we from the time we buy the vegetables, we are conscious about God. Let me buy the best tomatoes, not the cheap, fat, organic. Let me buy. So with the conscious, let me take shower before I cook. So this action is actually in action because their purpose is to please the Lord. We offer prasad. So this simple process of eating becomes in inaction. Right? Like this, we all have to maintain our family. We need to work outside. Right? So if our family is devotee, I mean if you are wife is devotee, children are devotees, then the hard work we are doing outside is actually in action. Because the purpose is to please God. Very simple activities. So similarly, if you have a small temple in the house, that's in action. And this is very natural, very easy, and anyone can do it. Let's say we recommend Jnana Yoga. Can my children learn Jnana Yoga? Now they can finish Sankhya and they become perfect? No. But now, Sham is doing it in action. in action.
Yeah,
Although he plays,
he came with you and he is joining the satsang. So for him that's an action. So he is doing some action by coming here, joining this program. Under the same roof, he is just
Sharananda.
purifying
Now
himself.
your aura is a yellow on your left side, is a whitish blue on your left
Which one?
side. Your aura.
Your aura.
I can see your aura. I'm very
Is that a good thing?
It's now increasing when he
Now
reads
he's
the
now
aura.
coming to the critical point, that's right. It's not good. The blue will get more.
When he's reading more, he's recharging all the spiritual energy. So that's why I can
it's transcendental.
I can see it.
Okay. So now what is the time now?
It's 8:46.
Okay. You have 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Okay. Now, so your question. So this one, right? We are acting, and it's easy. A child can do it. Can we learn Dhyana Yoga and make everyone do it? For Dhyana Yoga, you need to have certain rules, regulations. Can children do it? Can old people do it? Yeah. Other process? No. So this action, in action, everyone can do it. And it's so natural. And it's very easy process. It's very practical. So let's now read some important verses. In each section, I'll try to say what. So this chapter is Gurujan Prabhu. He kindly broken down, the chapters in different sections to help us understand Bhagavad Gita from Bhakti Yoga perspective. So section 1, he describes his verse 1 to verse 6. It's talking about Niskama Karma Yoga. The summary is that Niskama Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, is easier than renouncing work. Like I just explained. So what if we all have to go through the renouncing work? What a trouble. That means we can work, we can maintain our family, we have to control senses, we go to Himalayas, we fall down from there. It's temptation. Right? It's a lot of trouble. Okay. So now, so that's, we covered the first section already. We understood, right? These two verses are telling the essence of that. So second section describes on how to perform the Niskama Karma. So this is your question, right? So how to perform? Like this, that don't consider yourself as a body. And don't, okay, now, how to perform is like this. Let's understand what's the difference between now Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Now Bhakti Yoga also means karma, right? Karma Yoga is also karma, right?
Bhakti Yoga is directed to Krishna.
And what others do outside is also karma. Everything is action, karma. And we also say, and more confusing thing is Hare Krishna. For reaction also we say my karma like this. So that makes us more confused. No, everything is a karma. And we refer karma to the reaction, we also refer karma to action. We also say any work is also karma. And we also say karma yoga. And in bhakti also, now Krishna is saying do karma. So if we understand this, then we understand how to perform it. So any guesses? I mean, try to define. Let's take a few parameters and try to define it. Now it will become very simple to understand.
We are all born karmi or producer of karma. We become
No, we don't want to become very technical here. Very simple. It's just like how we define bhakti yoga. You know?
What's the question?
The question is, we know what is karma yoga. That means to reach God through the work, through work, right? And now we know what is bhakti yoga, devotion. But what is the definition of bhakti yoga? Is also to work, right? Karma yoga is also to work. So what's the difference? Difference between bhakti yoga and karma. If bhakti yoga also encourages us to work,
Motivation, karma yoga, you work in order to reduce karma, but in bhakti yoga you work for love.
but how to remember this? Huh?
What do you speak for love?
Out of love.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just making sure.
There are three important parameters that we can remember, right? One is the kind of work we do, and the result, and God. Okay? Let's take three parameters. So the outsiders who have no idea about Krishna, they also work. Right? Animals also work for food. So when outsiders work, it's called karma kanda or sakama karma, sometimes called sakama. They work for their desires. They have material desires, they work so they can please the senses. So if you apply these three parameters of God and the kind of work they do and why they do and what they do, what they want to do with the result. So now in Sakama Karma, anyone can answer. So what would they like to do with the results? Simply enjoy. And what is their relation with God? Almost zero. Or Sakama means they just started. They at least realize it's coming from Him. That's it. And are they attached to the work? Yes. They like their job. They like what they do, whatever they may be doing, right? So that's what it is. So they're not attached to God. They're attached to the work, and they're also very much attached to the results. That is Sakama. Before Sakama is sometimes they do illegal stuff. It's not even recommended work what they're doing. They do all sorts of work. It doesn't matter. They simply want to enjoy and they don't mind killing to that extent. Now when it comes to Karma Yoga, we do recommended work, not illegal work, first of all, right? We may be so attached to what? The three parameters again.
Result
God,
of the actions.
no. Results we are not attached to. We are,
We are attached to the results of the actions.
no. So in Karma Yoga, you're not supposed to be attached to the results of the work.
You are acting according to your
Right.
karma.
But you may be attached to the work itself. And you may be very little attached to God. You see, now the attachment is what it makes the difference. Now in Sakama, we are too much attached to the work, too much attached to the result, and no attachment to God. In Karma Yoga, we are little attached to God. We are also attached to the work we do, but we are not attached to the result. At least, we are neutral. Okay, if results come, let them come. That's a real Karma Yoga. But nowadays, what people say Karma Yoga, they are, they're at least mentally they are attached for name, fame, recognition, things like that. So now come.
Is Niskama Karma and Karma Yoga both options?
Yes. Yes.
Doing work without expectation.
Exactly.
Karma Yoga.
Exactly. Niskama Karma and Karma Yoga means the same thing. Sakama Karma means lower than Niskama. So Niskama by default is Karma Yoga. Now when it comes to Bhakti Yoga, now it's easy to define. We already explained 2 steps. No? I would expect you to define that. In Bhakti Yoga, what is his attachment level for the results? 0. Okay. And what is his attachment level for the kind of work he does? 0. And what is the attachment for the God? Love. What she said is absolutely, that defines Bhakti Yoga. His only point is to please God. That's the only difference. And he don't mind what kind of work he does. Any kind of work. It's fine for him. So this is what, how we should perform Bhakti Yoga. Also in Niskama Karma, which is Karma Yoga, one has to understand he is not the body. He has some jnana. He has some jnana, but not so much realization that he has love for God. So that's why 4th chapter is only jnana, transcendental knowledge. You see? So I think we understood the section 2 now, right? By his detached actions, he is freed from the reactions of his activities. Okay? So now what are we doing, most of us? We are in the transition between karma to bhakti yoga, probably. Correct? We all attached to our work, isn't it? I mean, I'm attached to my work. In software job is work from home and this and that. Okay. So bhakti yoga means you should not be attached to anything. It doesn't matter wherever Krishna puts you.
In Bhakti, everybody become like a sannyas, renouncing everything. Official or not official?
No, sannyasi means not renouncing everything. So that's what we're going to define next section. Sannyasi means so in the same parameters we'll define now 100%. In Bhakti Yoga you may choose certain type of work and you may not be attached to the work, but sannyasi means he is working exclusively to please Krishna, tirelessly. Too much of work.
It was called the sannyasi order of renunciation.
That's a real sannyasi. For example, now we are walking and we may find a gold coin. Okay. So people below Sakama Karma, and they will fight for it. They will be ready to kill each other to take the gold coin. And in Sakama Karma, they will take it. They'll say, "Oh God, thank you. I'll enjoy with this." Okay. In Karma, right? In Jnana Yoga, if he is not fully realized, he may think, "Oh, I'll get some reaction. it doesn't belong to me. Right? He may walk away. In
Bhakti.
other Markata Vairagya, they say that he may, oh, good coin. I don't, he just artificially announces it. It doesn't belong to me. But in Bhakti Yoga, one may think, oh, let me use it for Krishna. So that's what it is. That's called Yukta Vairagya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced it. But the only catch here is the neophyte devotees, when we are like in the beginning stages, there is a danger. In trying to use this material energy in service of Krishna, sometimes we may get caught up. We may get attached too. You see? So, Yukta Vairagya means you are a servant of a millionaire. Huh? So, if you are serving a millionaire, you get the same you get to live in his house. Right? You get to cook, you get to use most of his stuff. But if you start thinking, oh, it belongs to me, big problem. So Yukta Vairagya is like that. We want to be serving God opulently. So that means we can get opulent prasadam also. We can live in this opulent house in which we are serving Krishna. But the moment we think, oh, it belongs to me, there is a problem. So sannyasi is a person, he never ever thinks that it belongs to him. So other bhakti yogis, there is up and down. He'll sometimes fall down, he'll realize with the association, and then he goes normal up and down. The sannyasi is steady. He never thinks. So that's a very important thing. So now section 3, verses 13 to 16, they describe that there are 3 types of doers. The living being, the material modes of nature, and the super soul. Okay? So the living being who knows that all bodily activities are automatically carried out by the modes of material nature, after those activities are sanctioned by the super soul, attains enlightenment through that knowledge. Okay? So now we understand in Bhakti Yoga, even if we have some fall downs, right? Now we will understand. This is because of the modes of nature. And now we can understand in Bhakti Yoga that I am different from my, not just the body, I am also the mind. We can see the mind different, separate from us. We can differentiate the mind and the intellect. Real. In Karma Yoga or before, we may think whatever the mind is thinking, it's me. I am thinking like this. But when we come to Bhakti Yoga's platform, oh, why this mind is thinking like this? Just like you treat your mind like a chair. You won't connect yourself with your mind. You're different from your mind completely. And your interests are completely different from the interests of your mind. So that's Bhakti Yoga. There you can differentiate. Then you know the mind is thinking differently because the modes of nature are acting on this mind. But I know, I have this knowledge. If I can act in mode of goodness, I get this result. If I can act in more transcendental nature, that is simply to please God, I can get a different result. So this is the person, the soul is different. So we can see completely that we are entrapped in this. That's what Krishna explains in this mission of 9 gates. We can clearly understand. I'm entrapped inside, and this is trying to take me differently. Just like the car is out of control, we try to put the brakes now. We try to hold the speed. So that's why people say don't drink and drive. So when we don't drink and drive our car, now we are drinking and driving our car. We're drinking this material Maya. Completely drunk and we're driving. You know how we're driving. So when we come out of this drunken state, which is Bhakti Yoga state, now we will understand. I'm different from my mind.
sometimes you say, come on, Jay, you know, that's you're telling yourself, you're telling your mind,
Exactly.
don't act like that.
Don't act
So
it.
it's happening day to day to everybody.
Exactly.
So we're all at that position, I think.
Yes.
But the intensity of that
Intensity, yes.
depends on that. That shows you development.
Exactly. So that's called platform of knowledge. When you so now at least we understand, you know, in from Eastern side we understand intelligence is different. But if you see the Western philosophy, you know, they define mind to be, you know, mind includes intelligence, ego, and everything. Okay, so the section 4, 17 to 26 verses. So they describe how one can be liberated by focusing on the super soul. One who in knowledge devotionally fixes his consciousness on the super soul, remains materially equipoised, attains liberation in near future. Okay. So this is what we do. I mean, we fix our consciousness. Whatever work we do, it doesn't matter. We always fix, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's one of the dearmost disciples, and Rupa, we are called Rupa Nugas because of Rupa Goswami. He was serving King Nawab Hussain Shah. They were actually Hindus converted into Muslims. They were the prime ministers for this Nawab Hussain Shah. They were called, you know, Sakar Malik and Dabiz Khan. So they heard about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they wrote a letter to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that we want to see. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually first he gave them darshan, and they said, you do your work, you continue your work, you know, the day will come when you can serve me. And he went back, and then later after many years they wrote a letter again that I don't know how, when we will be able to come out of this you know, from the network of this nasty king. I feel very. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replies back, you continue to do your work in such a way that they don't get any doubt. He gives an example of sometimes, you know, if a married lady, she thinks about a lover, you know, she has to do her duties in such a way that everything is not going wrong. So you have your mind on me, but you do your duty as if you're normal, you know. So like that, whatever we may be doing, we have to do our duty in such a way that everything, but inside in the mind you always think about God. That's what it is.
Because here it says one who in knowledge, right? So knowledge is a tool, a weapon, but then it says devotional fixes his consciousness. It doesn't say one who in knowledge fixes his consciousness. It puts in the word devotion straight in the middle of those two things.
Yeah.
So that is also looks to be a key component, not just pure, just not using your knowledge, but also devotion or steering.
Exactly. So I mean, there are many examples of people, gurus, who has Vedic knowledge. They can tell all the verses, but they may not have the conclusion, right? They may be just using the knowledge to propagate their own ideas and things like that. So, and the section 5 is just 2 verses where Krishna is just introducing about Ashtanga Yoga. And that's how the next chapter goes to Ashtanga Yoga. That is the 8-step process. Now this is the one, he just introduces where Arjuna rejects it. He says that you can also achieve it by doing the sound, please see it. Okay, now the last, I would like to read one verse which is 5.7, which is very important. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Can we repeat it? Can you please repeat line by line? One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone. And everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. That answers your question? So we want to be dear to everyone. And we also want everyone to be dear to us. So the best way is to work in devotion. The best way is not to stop working. Okay. So now I don't know if you want me to summarize. We touched based on many things. I'll quickly summarize in 2-3 minutes. And then I'll ask 2 questions. The last 2 questions. Whoever would like to volunteer. So first we broke the Bhagavad Gita into 3 sections, which is karma, bhakti and jnana. And then we explained how Krishna is center theme is karma, coming to work in devotion. So he first explains Karma Yoga in chapter 3, and chapter 4 he gives more knowledge, and chapter 5 is telling how to really work in. He confused Arjuna a little bit in chapter 3 and chapter 4, so he can ask this question, so he can emphasize more of how to work. And we try to define what is action in inaction. So we all understood, except the latecomer. So what is action in inaction?
Where do I start again?
In one line. What is action in inaction? He explained. So try to define inaction is someone trying to think I am not acting. But there is, what is there in that thought process? Is it correct?
No.
No, because Krishna is saying there is action in inaction. Because you can't stop acting. So if you don't know how to act and artificially renounce acting, it's an illusion. You may be thinking I'm not acting, I may go into forest, I give up this, but we are. And then what is inaction in action? The opposite of it. Yeah, that's the right one, but what is it? How do you say it?
At least. Okay. Were you gonna say something?
Not to do, but it should be in Krishna consciousness.
Exactly. So the verse just be there. There is an inaction. Although he say Krishna is saying, although he's working, he is never entangled. That means, So we are concerned about actually the reaction of the work. Krishna is saying there is no reaction if you work in devotion, if you work in full knowledge. Okay, we described that. And we also understood, defined Sakama, your